The smallest act of faith can sometimes be the very thing that shifts the atmosphere of your entire life. Because faith is not measured by the size of the action but by the purity of the heart behind it. Many people believe that it takes grand gestures, massive sacrifices, or public displays to move God. But the truth is that heaven responds to sincerity, consistency, and trust in the unseen. A simple prayer whispered in the middle of the night when you felt like giving up, a decision to keep pushing forward even when your circumstances told you to quit, or the courage to forgive someone who wronged you may not look significant to the world, but in the spiritual realm, those actions carry enormous weight. Faith is like a seed, and even when it seems small, it holds the power to grow into something extraordinary. The scripture reminds us that faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains, which means your quiet, unseen steps of obedience have the potential to shift situations far greater than you could imagine. Every time you choose faith over fear, even in the simplest way, you are declaring that you trust God more than your doubts and more than your enemies. That declaration does not go unheard, it does not go unnoticed, because God takes pleasure in the faith of His children. Imagine heaven leaning in when you decide not to complain about your struggles, but instead to thank God for what you do have. Imagine the joy that rises in heaven when you resist temptation, even when no one else is watching. These are not small acts in the eyes of God. They are moments of victory that echo in eternity. What seems like a minor choice to you today can be the very reason a generational curse is broken, a door begins to open, or a blessing is released into your life. Faith does not always need to roar loudly or show itself in dramatic fashion. Sometimes, it is in the gentle, steady whisper of your heart that refuses to doubt God's promises. The angels of the Lord recognize when you keep moving forward, even though your knees are trembling, and they respond to those movements of faith by aligning circumstances in your favor. Many chosen ones underestimate their strength because they think their efforts are too small to matter, but God measures obedience, not size. What you consider small may be the very act that confuses your enemies, because they expect you to fall apart, yet you choose to stand. They expect you to curse your situation, yet you choose to worship. They expect you to give up, yet you take one more step, and that single step can be the step that places you into the next chapter of your destiny. God's laughter is not like human laughter that comes from humor or mockery. It is a sound of triumph, a declaration that the battle is already won, a heavenly response that silences the voices of opposition. When the scripture says that God laughs at the plans of the wicked, it is not because He finds evil amusing, but because He knows that no weapon formed against His chosen will prosper. The enemy may scheme, plot, and try to build traps around your life, but when God laughs, it is a divine announcement that every one of those plans has already been overturned. His laughter is a signal of assurance that the enemy's efforts are wasted, their strategies are futile, and their victories are illusions that vanish in His presence. For the chosen ones, this laughter is both a shield and a song, because it means heaven is celebrating your perseverance and protecting your destiny at the same time. When you take a stand in faith and refuse to bow down to fear, the enemy loses ground, and God laughs in victory. That laugh ripples through the heavens like a trumpet, announcing to angels and principalities that your enemy's time is up. Think about how powerful it is that one act of obedience from you can provoke heaven into a celebration of triumph. While you may feel like you are still fighting through hardship, God already sees you as victorious, and His laughter confirms it. To you, it might look like the battle is ongoing, but in His eyes, the war is already finished, and you are standing on the winning side. This is why the enemy fights so hard against your mind, trying to convince you that you are losing. Because if you ever understood how secure your victory already is, you would walk with unshakable confidence. The laughter of God also humiliates your enemies, because it exposes their weakness in the face of His power. Every trap they set, every word spoken against you, every moment they rejoiced in your struggle becomes a setup for their own downfall. When God laughs, it echoes as a reminder that He has the final say, and no human, no demon, no circumstance can override His will. The enemy cannot stand against a God who laughs in the face of their attacks, because that laughter carries authority, it carries justice, and it carries a reminder that His chosen cannot be destroyed. To you, His laughter is a reassurance, a way of saying, do not worry, I have already taken care of this, keep walking in faith. To your enemies, His laughter is a sound of terror, because it announces the collapse of their schemes and the futility of their efforts. Even when you are unaware of the battles being fought on your behalf, God's laughter resonates over your life, ensuring that what was meant to harm you turns into a testimony of victory. His laughter is not distant, it is personal, it is directed at the very things that tried to stop you, and it means that heaven has already declared checkmate before the enemy even makes their next move. What seems ordinary to you today may actually be the very action that secures your breakthrough, because God does not overlook the hidden, simple moments that carry great weight in the spiritual realm. You might think your decision to pray for a few minutes in the middle of a busy day is insignificant, but that prayer could be the turning point that shifts the atmosphere over your life. You might believe that choosing not to retaliate when someone tried to provoke you was just an act of patience, but in God's eyes, it was a powerful act of self-control that disarmed the enemy's plan against you. The things you do in quietness, the choices you make when no one else is watching, and the steps you take that no one applauds often carry more power than you realize. God measures obedience differently than people do. What looks like small discipline to you is monumental in the kingdom of heaven, because it shows your trust in Him even when circumstances tempt you to give in. That's so many breakthroughs are released, not by dramatic displays, but by consistent obedience in what seems mundane. Waking up and choosing to start the day with gratitude rather than complaint might feel routine, but it becomes a shield against discouragement and opens the door for blessings to flow. Choosing to sow a seed of kindness into someone else's life, even when you are in need yourself, may feel ordinary, but it becomes the very act that positions you for a harvest. Heaven pays attention to these moments, because they reveal the posture of your heart. The enemy wants you to think that only grand, visible actions matter, but the truth is that the unseen obedience of today builds the unseen foundation of tomorrow's victories. God often hides the greatest rewards behind the smallest steps. Think of the widow who gave her 2 coins, which seemed ordinary and insignificant compared to the wealth others gave, yet Jesus declared her offering greater than them all. That principle is still alive in your life today. What you gave, what you released, what you endured without bitterness may look small, but in God's sight, it is evidence that you are ready for more. Your enemies may mock your small beginnings, but they cannot see the magnitude of what God is building from them. Every act of faithfulness is a stone laid into the foundation of your destiny, and sooner than you think, the structure of your breakthrough will rise where others only sought emptiness. This is why it is so important not to underestimate the significance of what you did today. You may never know which prayer sealed your victory, which step of obedience unlocked a door, which act of surrender broke a chain. The unseen obedience of today carries the weight of unseen victory tomorrow. And while you may not see the full picture yet, heaven has already recorded it, and God has already laughed in triumph because of it. Chosen ones, today you have been reminded that nothing you do in faith is ever wasted. The smallest steps, the simplest acts, the quiet prayers, and the moments when you chose to trust God instead of giving in to doubt have already moved heaven in ways you cannot yet see. Every time you resisted the urge to quit, every time you placed God above your emotions, and every time you stood firm in the face of opposition, it echoed powerfully in the spiritual realm. You may have thought it was ordinary, you may have felt like it was unnoticed, but heaven saw it, and God laughed. In victory on your behalf, that laugh is a sound of triumph, a declaration that your enemies are already defeated, and a confirmation that your breakthrough is already unfolding. Do not doubt the value of what you did today, for it is often in the unseen actions that the greatest victories are secured. Trust that the God who sees in secret will reward you openly, and know that His joy over your life means you are walking straight into your destiny. Thank you, beloved chosen ones, for giving me your time, your attention, and your open heart today. I honor your journey, your resilience, and your faith that continues to inspire. Remember, you are not walking this road alone. Heaven is on your side, and God Himself is guiding your steps with laughter of triumph over every battle. Stay encouraged, stay strong, and keep believing even in the small things, because your obedience is not in vain. Until we meet,